Welcome, life-saving family. Today, sitting with me is Kelsey Cummings. She is a 12-time individual USLA National champion, as well as a world silver medalist in the women's surf race. So we are very excited today to have Kelsey with us, and she's going to break down some race footage from the 2018 Open Women's Surf Race. Welcome, Kelsey.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, so before we get started, having watched the video many, many times, and it was a little difficult to find you at first, but I noticed that you started on the north end of the course. That was the lane assignment you were given. I recall from having been in the men's surf race either just a few minutes before that or a few minutes after that, that there was a pretty significant sweep moving from right to left. So if you were facing the water, it was moving from right to left. So you were actually swimming against the sweep. Was that something that you knew or you would know ahead of time? And then how would you plan for that strategically before the race, maybe minutes before the race when you find out what lane you're in?
Yeah, I do remember that lateral current. I know it shifted, so I can't really remember where it was going during this race. And so if it was going left or right, and I was on, that would have been, is that the north end? I was on the north end.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously not the ideal spot. Ideally, I would probably want to work on my water entry. So either running down if I need to run south to like compensate for the current, or I guess pretty much I would probably make the change or adjustment on my water entry.
And I did notice that a number of the other top competitors, like Harriet Brown, Hallie Peterson, who finished in the top three as well, and Brielle Cooper. I think Brielle was maybe in the middle, but Harriet and Hallie were on the opposite side of the course, which was definitely a more advantageous place to be in. Is that something that you're aware of? And do any negative thoughts sort of creep into your head before the race like that? And if so, how do you deal with it?
A little bit. I mean, I know probably the surf race is the biggest one. I think the board and the ski are a little bit easier to compensate. But the surf race is probably the hardest of where, like, you have that lateral current. And, like, when I draw a lane and seeing that, like, oh, I'm lane one on the wrong end, it's kind of a bummer, but I think it's something that's just kind of a part of surf racing, because there have been times that I've drawn, lane 32 and been on like the perfect spot. So it's like, you get good lane draws, and then you get bad lane draws. And I think just being able to be like flexible and adapt to it is what really makes a difference, because you can't, like, every little detail, especially in surf racing, is not going to be perfect. And so just kind of rolling with the punches and trying to still do your best race with that is really important.
I totally agree. It's definitely something that even after all these years, I still struggle with a little bit. Especially, as most surf swimmers in the USLA come from a pool swimming background, we're so used to sort of a very controllable environment where you have your own lane. Unless you're in one of those old pools where it's like some lanes have a current, some don't. Most of us have been in like an old pool like that, but in the surf, it's very different. And there are so many situations that you just cannot control. So that's really great. All right. Let us take a look at the video and see how the start goes. Okay. All right, Kelsey. So as we said, you started on the north end, I think approximately lane 4. So I think you're right about there. And we've got Hallie off on the left with Harriet. I think that's April Gorman tucked in right behind Hallie. And then Brielle, I think that's in the middle. And then I think Casey Francis just off to your right shoulder. So as you enter the water, you're getting out through the surf, so to speak. Pretty flat conditions. What are you thinking at this point as you hit that bank, as you hit that shallower section?
I think it went pretty deep really fast, so it was just a few dolphins, and then we had to start swimming. So the start is really just about like getting a good entry and not getting stuck behind people that I don't want to be stuck behind. Like kind of looking for the people that I know that are going to be out front, whether it be Harriet and Hallie in this case, kind of seeing where they're at and always like checking my line as to making sure I'm on the right course.
So at this point, you're in, about fourth or fifth place. Is that where you wanted to be? Are you a little bit nervous at this point? Like, oh, I'm not leading, I should be leading, or you're just settling in to a draft and feel pretty confident where you're sitting?
I'm normally comfortable just drafting to the first can, but I think I do remember in this particular race, I don't think the footage really shows, but they were a lot further ahead than I was really comfortable with.
Yep.
It was actually like quite a bit of a difference that like it was a full body like that I was a little bit panicky, but I think it was something where I was like, this water's so flat, I just kind of have to go into like, this is just swim mode right now and just kind of put my head down and push through it.
Definitely. All right, so I'm going to pause. Okay, so just to review real quick, I noticed off the start, you got off pretty well. When you and the other girls hit that shallower section, that little mini sandbar there, I noticed off on the left side of the screen or the right side of the course, Harriet and some of the other girls got up and started to porpoise. I know that I felt very indecisive heading into the men's surf race as to what to do in that section, whether to just swim through it or to do some dolphin dives or porpoising. Did you go into the race with a well thought out plan, like I'm definitely going to do this, or it was just sort of like an in the moment decision that you made to also porpoise and get a couple of dolphin dives in that section?
It was definitely an in the moment decision. I remember the ocean conditions for this race was probably like my worst nightmare. Like it had a shallow sandbar that was like a little too deep for me because Harriet's got like a foot on me.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember I think I dove down and I did like 2 dolphins and I got nowhere. I was just like, this is pointless. I'm just going to swim through it. And it was really kind of discouraging to watch the people around me be dolphining and be making up a lot of ground when I just was like, I couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I felt the same thing. And I don't recall if the men's race was before or after. Do you? Because I know Hayden executed that very well in the men's race where he was able to just kind of pull away on the way out and pull away on the way in.
I think it was before because I think I watched it and I think I watched him do it and I was just like, well, I can't do that.
It doesn't suit your strengths. You were like, that's not, yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that.
So with that said, going into a race, so you know who the top competitors are, do you know what their strengths and weaknesses are? And then do you think about that in terms of like how the race is going to play out? So like we both know that Hallie has a bit of a sprint freestyle background. So like you kind of know that she's going to get out quick. Do you know that in the back of your head? And do you think like, all right, she's going to lead out, the first 100 meters or so, I'm going to tuck in behind her and then see where we go? Like, is that something that you think about?
Yeah, when I'm going out, like I know that a lot of people get out faster than me. Mm-hmm. I don't really like to be the first to the buoy. I kind of like to just follow and draft. Mm-hmm. But it's not saying that like I won't be the first to the buoy. Like ideally, I want to be first. But if I'm not in a position that I can do that, then I'm perfectly fine being in second or third. But Hallie, I know her racing. She's a much better high stepper than me. She can get out pretty well through the surf pretty quickly. But as far as Australians, like they're very intimidating because they don't really have any weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So having like Harriet and Brielle, they're like, I know that they're going to be good at everything. Mm-hmm. Getting out, getting around the cans, swimming, high stepping, dolphining, they don't have any weaknesses.
Right. Did you take any solace in knowing like, all right, I'm a 443, 445, 500-yard freestyler. Like I know that the Aussie girls are fit, but like, no, I don't know that anybody could swim with me in a 500 freestyle. Like, are you thinking that at all? Like the back half of the race, the last like 100 yards, I'm going to own it? Or it's, you're just like, I'm just going to go out there and go as hard as I can and see what happens.
I I think I know in the back of my head that I can outswim these people when it comes to pure swimming, but I don't think of myself as that swimmer that I was anymore.
Right.
I think like I'm in good shape, and like I never know what they're capable of. I don't know what Harriet can do in a pool. I know she's a good swimmer, and she doesn't swim in a pool, but honestly, she's pretty good. So I wouldn't be surprised if she's the same.
Right. Yep. All right. So let's cut back to the video. All right. So back to the video. We went back a little bit as we could see some of the competitors making their way through that shallower section, some trying to porpoise, some just swimming straight through it. So again, we see Hallie out in front, Harriet off to her side, then April and Brielle, and then you're up on the left shoulder of Brielle making your way up. So as you said, you did feel a little bit nervous with the distance or gap between Hallie and Harriet and yourself. What is your strategy typically going around the buoys or going around the far cans in the surf race?
Especially when it comes to the buoys, it's like really my positioning of where I want to be. Like I stop kind of regarding what other people are doing, and I'm just like make my own line to the buoy, because anything can happen. I want to be in like my best position.
Now, I also noticed that you and April got tied up a little bit, and I've heard people on the beach before, sometimes guys who think they're a little bit macho, like, oh, somebody tackled me or they were wrestling me and, I stopped and punched them. And I try to remind them like, hey, you're just kind of wasting energy by doing that. So what sort of mindset do you have, if somebody incidentally like climbs over your back or you get tangled up with somebody? Like, what's your philosophy when it comes to that?
I just keep going. I don't if I get annoyed that they're like going the wrong way and where I want to be going, but I can't think about that. I just keep going.
Yep. So you made a great move going around those cans. We're about to hit the last flag. You're right up now, basically tied with Hallie. And right there, I see you cut to the inside of Harriet. Again, was that sort of a cognizant decision that you made to go to that side? Because I do notice that you breathed to the left. Did you do that so that you could see her coming home the whole way?
No, I just did it just so that I could be in the best position coming home. It was literally just for my own racing strategy.
So when you made that move, you surged up to her hip and then to her shoulder and looked pretty even with her at this point. And you can see Hallie over there as well. Do you feel like you have the race won, or you still know that you're in a battle and she's not going to give an inch coming home?
I still know that it's we've got a long ways to go. I don't know what these Australians, I don't know what their back half of their race looks like. So I know that I have to this is where the real racing starts for me at least. And I have to this is my strength that I have to start picking it up.
Yep. And I noticed that you had a 2-beat kick most of the race. Right here, you look like you're picking it up to a 4, almost a 6-beat kick, a little tiny wave. And I see that kick pick up. Now you're about maybe a quarter body length lead and you can see the rest of the field. What are you thinking as you finish the last 10 or 15 yards of the race?
I'm just kind of lining up, making sure that I'm in a good position, because I think at this race, I started bringing my legs in, but if it comes to a run, I know that Harriet's just got so much of an advantage on me that it's something that it makes me really nervous. So I want to really kind of get into the mindset of it's going to come down to a run, and I need to be in a really good position for that. Okay.
Awesome. So we're just watching some of the rest of the girls finish, maybe 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and what a great race. Dead flat conditions, so I'm sure you were hurting after this, and with many more races to go. So that was really terrific.
Yeah.
All right, we're back. We've just finished watching the race, so that was really an awesome race to watch. Just a couple more questions for you, Kelsey. I went back and looked at some of the older results. I noticed that in 2017, you finished 3rd in the women's surf race. If I remember correctly, there was a little bit of surf, and I think you led most of that race and may have gotten jagged on a wave. I could be wrong. We've been to a lot of competitions together, and you've led many races. So Is that what happened? And just getting third in general, was it something that you carried with you through your training in 2018 that motivated you? Like, I need to get redemption to get back to the top of, the women's surf race kind of thing?
A little bit. Yeah. On that in 2017, I was jagged on a wave. They'd caught a wave in Daytona, which was kind of surprising.
Yep.
And passed me, and I think coming into Virginia, my mindset was that like I want to be in a position that even if they catch a wave, it's not going to make a difference. To wherever I need to be in that, because like swimming, I feel like is the race where like if someone catches a wave, they can pass you. Whereas like a board or a ski, like you can jump on that wave, but like swimming's the one discipline that is actually kind of frustrating because you can't. Well, some people can. My level, I can't really pick up broken waves too well.
I find that to be the hardest thing to do as well. Like, we're mostly self-taught, looking at, in terms of surf racing skills. And I agree with you that that's like probably one of the biggest deficiencies I have as like a surf swimmer, is just picking up broken waves is really, really difficult. So, yeah, well, you definitely redeemed yourself. And going back, digging into some of the history, I also noticed that in 2015, which was also Daytona Beach, I believe, and I could be wrong, I believe you got disqualified in the surf race. And I can totally empathize with you, because in Daytona Beach, I also won a race, the men's rescue race, and by a good margin, and we were disqualified, rightfully so, for an infraction. But it had no bearing on the outcome of the race. Just as I believe your disqualification, I remember you won by like a mile. We didn't know who you were. I remember myself and the Reese guys were like, who is this girl? Like, she's so far out in front. What happened in that race? And then how was that sort of like a learning moment or a teachable moment for you for your future in surf racing?
Daytona in 2015 was my first nationals ever. Pretty much my first like surf carnival. I had no idea what I was doing. I just went for it, and I missed a buoy. And I think I took everyone with me to miss the buoy also. And I just kept going. I just was like, and I got back, and I was like, huh, that was weird.
Do you remember which buoy?
Back. What's that?
Do you remember which buoy it was? Like, was it on the way out, on the way in?
It must have been like the first flag.
Okay, so like you, instead of having the first flag on your right shoulder, it was on your left. But yeah, okay.
I had no idea. I probably didn't even know that the flag line was part of the race.
Wow. Okay. So definitely something to keep in mind for younger athletes is know the course before the race. Talk to some of the senior people on your team, or ask an official, or even ask a fellow competitor. I mean, we're all competing amongst our, we're with each other, but I found that, before a race, people are pretty friendly and they'll explain the course to you. I don't know that I've met anybody so malicious that they would tell you the wrong course before the race. So how did you use that moment, maybe through the rest of the weekend, or, for your future in surf racing, being that was really your first surf carnival?
I was kind of bummed after, and I was a little bit frustrated, but looking back at it, like now it's like kind of funny. It was just like I had no idea what was going on, and so I was just like, oh well. I was upset, but then afterwards I was like, well, let's make sure I don't do that again. So making sure I go around to all the flags and the buoys.
Yep. Awesome. Well, Kelsey, we've had such a good time talking today about racing, and hopefully 2021 brings more racing than 2020 brought. So thanks for chatting, and that's it. Take care, everybody.